Is the restaurant, second floor the lounge, and the kitchen is totally underwater.
이거 보자. 시간 저 딱섬 하나인데 집 한 채가 딱 있어. 나무 하나하고. 너무 재밌지? 그렇게 섬이야 여기가. 저
The modern building you see coming up on the left, up on the hill, is Edward John Noble Hospital. For 1/3 of the money to construct the hospital.
이모부 저거 찍어요. 저기. 엄마 그리고 봐봐. 섬 하나에 지금 있잖아. 섬 하나에 우체통 있어.
The first legalized gambling casino in New York State. This casino burned 2 years after the opening of the casino. And later on, the Village Scenic View Park purchased the island, built this small century. It was said over 100 millionaires came up to this area and purchased the islands to build homes upon. Although most of the homes still no longer stand because they were destructed by fire. Some accidentally, some on purpose. Some of the islanders seem to think that the insurance money was worth a lot more than the island homes themselves.
Lost that part of it. They were on more about that part of the last time.
These two men were passengers aboard the Titanic in 1912. Now you'll notice that only one of those homes stand today, and the second home was torn down in the late 50s. The current owners of the home turned that foundation into their own swimming pool here upon the island. The last home we see on Cherry Island is the Winley Lodge. This home was originally owned by the Kellogg family out of Battle Creek, Michigan. Second of 2 fires. Now, the difference between a boatel and a motel is that the only way you can reach a boatel is by boat. The next island comes to be much larger, but during the construction of the St. Lawrence Seaway, purchased 3 underwater shoals, built a seawall around them, pumped out the water, and filled it in with stone, gravel, and sand. Put a few trees upon the island, and then built this beautiful summer home you see here. Well, as the story goes on, unfortunately, Mrs. Rose was not happy with the island. Region, it is 9 miles long and 5 miles wide at the widest point. Private living quarters, and the upper floors were for family and guests. Later, taking you through the first 5 floors of the castle. Now in the castle, there's 365 windows, 1 window for each day of the year. The low extension you see running away from the castle, on top of it, there's a fireworks display celebrating the opening of the Bridge Authority.
Again, I will point them out as we go by. North of the Fort Pond Paradise Island, you should see a hawk there. That is on the right-hand side of the
안 찍어줘 임마.
And if you look to the left of the camera, there's a bear holding a fish in his paw. Now, Paradise Island and the home here were both the subject to a raffle 15 years ago to benefit the Children's Hospital in Kingston. Tickets were sold on both the American and Canadian borders. Now, when they drew the winners, they realized they did not have to search far at all. The winner was a nurse working in the hospital. Now, the nurse who had just won her summer home. Now, she kept it for 2 years. But then on her salary, well, she could not afford to keep it. She was forced to sell it, and I'm told it made her quite upset. But then she received a check for the home, and that made her feel a lot better. She received a... Here on the river, we follow an international 3R rule of navigation. That rule is red right returning, or the red markers on your right when returning from the ocean. And you keep the green markers on your right when going towards the ocean. We just passed green on our right. Currently, we are heading towards the Atlantic Ocean. Also on that channel marker is the number 18. This is the speed limit for this section of the river. Since we are in Canada, well, it's posted in kilometers per hour. 12 miles per hour going downriver towards the ocean. If caught speeding, you are subject to a $1,000 fine for every mile per hour over the speed limit that you are going.
먹으면 되죠?
And on your left-hand side is a group of islands making up the Smuggler's Cove.
예, 이렇게 하면 여기 화면에 누가 나오겠니?
The Smuggler's Cove received this name back during the Prohibition years, when this was a very popular spot for visiting runners and
너무
school
힘들겠다,
bikers,
우체부가.
because there are 7 ways in and 7 ways out of the Smuggler's Cove. So they would go here if they were trying to escape from authorities. Not told if they had whiskey and scotch on board, well, it was illegal.
내일은 안
They
갔다
always kept it in nets. So if they had to, they could cut the ties loose. The nets would go to the bottom, and there would be no actual evidence against them. Well, after losing a lot of money and liquor on the deal, well, they smartened up. They got crates. Filled the crates half full of scotch
다리로
flakes,
몰라도
while the other half with rock salt.
있는 큰 섬을 거쳐서 두 개를 거치면 캐나다로 가더라고.
Crates and nets, and if they had to, they could cut the
또
ties
하나
loose.
거치면
This time
캐나다.
the crates would go to the bottom of the river. But they also had learned that a few days later, after the rock salt had dissipated, well, the crates would weigh a lot less. So they would rise back up to the top, they could go back and pick up their cargo. And you might say that
우와. 길다. 나도 볼래. 나도 볼래. 메리 윌리. 나도 볼래. 아우. 야. 그거 갖고 안.
well, at least one person has just noticed that we are currently backtracking because yes, we did turn around. So I will be taking a short break, and during my break I will be coming around to all the groups on board this boat. If you have any questions about the tour, please just ask me. My name is John. I'm more than happy to answer anything.
비켜라. 띠기딩. 기야. 알림. 미안.
나중에 노후에 백년 오빠랑 와서 하실 생각을.
뭔가 잘하는.
Leave them on their long journey.
지금 윤식 선
Small island also on your right is called Tugboat Island. If you look closely to the base of the home on Tugboat Island, while you will see the foundation is actually placed on cinder blocks. That home was built on the mainland. Then the owner rented a tractor, placed the home on skids, and dragged his tractor and the home across the ice during the winter time.
유령선.
I hope that is proof that the ice does get very thick up here in the winter time. And if you are wondering why he would do it, well, it saved him a lot of money.
뭐지? 되게
And to conclude your tour today are three islands on the right, connected by two white footbridges, making up the Manhattan Island group.
더
In the 1840s, there was a gentleman named Andrew Cornwall.
좋았습니다.
He owned all of the islands here in the region.
갈
He was
때는
approached by a marine
섬들이
biologist from Rochester named Seth Green. Mr. Green asked Mr. Cornwall if he could buy an island to build a home upon it and study the marine life here in the region.
저는 뭐
Well, Mr. Cornwall thought he was joking, so he replied back in a joking manner, well, I'll sell you the Center Island, which you have to take the two smaller ones with it. Mr. Green was not joking.
1달러 받아야 돼.
He agreed and paid $24 for all three of these islands.
집들이 막 되게 많은데
$24 is also the price that the Dutch paid to the Indians for the island of Manhattan in New York City.
그래가지고
Hence its name the Manhattan Island Group.
그리고 섬 하나면은 그게 자기 집이란 막
So at this time we are heading into the Thounsands Old Castle.
이웃집
If you do plan on visiting the castle, all we ask for your attention for a few minutes. There is an admission fee, $3.75 per adult. Children between the ages of 6 to 12, $2. Under 6 are free. Now it is a self-guided walking tour. But since it's kind of late in the day, if you do want to visit the castle, you will have about 45 minutes.
체부들이
The castle closes at 7:30. They start loading our shuttle boat, the Uncle Sam 2, at 7:15. There is a PA system, and they will announce when the shuttle boat is there. I think for this trip, that's all you need to know about the castle. If you do not want to go to the castle, just stay on board. We'll head back to the mainland momentarily. Also, you do not need a ticket in any way, shape, or form to get back. We figure if we drop you off, and since the castle is going to close, well, we should at least pick you up and bring it back. Leave must be stranded. The other thing at this time, please just remain where you are until we are tied up. And then if you want to go out and visit it, you will be unloading off the back or the stern. Also, if you have any trash that you have, please just pick it up and throw it in the trash. Believe me, the crew greatly appreciates it. So at this time, on behalf of myself, Captain Mary Cunningham, and Heather, thank you for riding with us today. We thank you for your cooperation. We know that you've heard three voices on the mic today, and we appreciate it. You cooperating with us. I do hope you enjoyed your tour. If you have, then come again and tell friends. If you haven't, well, personally, I'm sorry. But just please keep it to yourself. And all of you, thank you for the purchase of the books and the extra that came with it. I enjoyed talking with you, and I hope all of you enjoy the rest of your stay here in the Thousand Islands region.
너무 부자인 것 같습니다. 근데 여기 살면 불편할 것 같습니다. 왜냐하면 맨날 보트를 타고
얼마나 좋냐? 보트가 얼마나 재밌는데 와 맨날 재밌잖아.
그리고 맨날 학교에 늦고
아니 근데 내가 좀 일찍 나가면 되지 아니면 학교 시간을 좀 늦추거나.
그리고 저기 되게 좋은 섬이다. 내릴 거야. 내릴 거예요 여기가. 이런 호텔이 있는지 없는지 모르겠습니다.
그런 거 같아. 센터파가 말이 5분.
B라고 생각해.
일본국이랑 비슷해서 그래도 죽음이라고 알릴까?
죽음이라고 할 B라고 쓰잖아.
In fact, Ulster Tower may have been modeled after a castle on the Rhine River. But as Ulster Tower neared completion, George began thinking of castles on a much grander scale. He imagined a beautiful castle nestled atop Hart Island, surrounded by Italian gardens and the crystal waters of the St. Lawrence. And he imagined his beloved wife, Louise, gliding down a fabulous staircase like a princess in a fairy tale castle. He would build that castle, and he would present it to Louise as a Valentine's Day gift. So in 1899, George commissioned the architectural firm of Hewitt, Stevens & Pace of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The architects were told that expense was a minor consideration, and the plans called for 11 buildings, of which the castle would be the focal point. The original wooden cottage on Hart Island was dismantled, and part of it was transported across the frozen St. Lawrence to become part of the golf house of the Thousand Islands Country Club. In 1900, work started on the castle itself. The granite castle would be 6 stories high from the foundation to the highest tower room, and would be 75 feet long and 115 feet wide, with 127 rooms. The exterior of the castle is of an ashlar patterned granite stone. To assure a steady supply of matching materials, the granite and the sand used in mixing the mortar were obtained from George Bolt's own quarries on Oak Island, 10 miles away. A crew of 150 men were employed in getting the stone for the construction of the house. A railroad was set up on Oak Island to make removal of the stone easier. The granite and sand were then loaded onto large barges and transported to the castle. The head stone cutter cut the stone to exact specifications as he carefully followed the plans for the house. Each stone bore a mark as to where it was supposed to go. His work was so precise that after being transported to Hart Island, supposedly not one stone needed any alteration. Most of the work on the castle was done by a force of 300 men employed by George Bolt. George worked the heart theme throughout the entire island. There are hearts carved in stone, hearts molded in plaster, hearts made from cast iron, and hearts carved in wood. Beautiful Italian gardens were planted, and the hennery was built to house George's favorite fowl. 4 years had passed since the work began on the castle. It was only a year and a half away from completion when tragedy struck. In January of 1904, a telegram arrived at the office of the Superintendent of Construction. All the work on the castle was to be stopped. Louise Bolt was dead at age 42. The exact cause of Louise's death has remained a mystery, but she had been in delicate health for some time, and some accounts say consumption was to blame. The Bolts had been married 26 years. Within an hour, the uncompleted house was transformed from a scene of busy activity to a tomb of quiet. Silence descended upon the castle as the workmen put down their tools and left. Over $2.5 million had been spent on the castle. The house that had been George and Louise's dream was left to the mercy of time and the elements. After Louise died, George never returned to their castle. Instead, he devoted his time to his hotels and other business ventures. He kept up his interest in the Thousand Islands, however, and among his land holdings were 6 islands and several hundred acres of land on Wellesley Island. George Bolt died on December 5, 1916, in the Waldorf Astoria of heart failure, attributed to overwork. He left his estate worth about $20 million to his 2 children, George Jr. and Louise Clover, and to his 3 grandchildren. He was buried in Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx, next to his beloved wife. His children ran their father's estate after his death. After World War I, in 1922, George Jr. and Louise Clover Bolt Miles sold Bolt Castle and other Thousand Island properties to Edward J. Noble, inventor of Lifesavers Candy. Noble opened the castle to the public, starting the tradition of tours visiting the castle. But he left it unprotected, both from the elements and the public, and both